Hello and welcome to We the People. I'm Gargi Rawat. Now this last week we saw a massive victory for human rights with the Supreme Court decriminalizing homosexuality by doing away with a 158-year-old law, that's Section 377. Though actually it's also quite shocking that it's taken us this long. Even so, it's been a long and difficult legal journey to get here, but this is half the battle. The law has changed, but what about the mindsets? For the LGBTQ community, many challenges remain. They could still face discrimination in the workplace, remember? That's something that we keep reading about. Landlords may still refuse same-sex couples housing, and the law still does not recognize a long-term partner as having the same rights as next of kin. And even if things may be changing in the cities, what about rural India? What about the villages where a sizable part of the population lives? In fact, Justice Nariman even said in his judgment that the government should take steps to disseminate information, to counter prejudices, and also that government and police officials must be sensitized. But so far, we've had no word from the government. Well, we've got quite a great panel here today to talk about all these issues going ahead, but I'd like to start with Devottam Saha, an IIT student and a part of a society of IIT students who've actually been fighting for LGBTQ rights, and you're one of the petitioners. Tell us, Devottam, tell us about your journey. It was difficult coming out to your parents. Also, tell us about this society of IIT students, because as you know, in India, we all love our IITs and we love the IIT students. And it's great to know that there's this community of you there who've been fighting for your rights and also gone to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for me to be here, and I really want to thank, our lawyers, Dr. Menka Guruswamy and Dr. Arundhati Kadzu. And I think, and also to my mom, to my brother, and to my friends who have been, so supportive in this long struggle. But also at the same time, there's this. I think the verdict comes with a firm answer to the persons who have so many prejudices against me, who have told me at different points of time that I'm abnormal, I'm unnatural. Including my dad, and he still believes that there's some blood test which would come, sometime which would detect even now. So, but I think this is also a time when, we should go back to the history and how the movement has taken place in this country. And we also, it's a time that we also remember the lives which we have lost at different points of time, starting from the transgender activist who was from Kerala. She was brutally killed, she was brutally murdered. There's these lesbian couples who committed suicide. So I think this is a moment where you contemplate as well as you look forward to what's going to happen, how the country is going to take a shape through this particular verdict. And I think IIT, of course, if you ask me how the atmosphere in IIT pertaining to queer people, I would say it's both yes and no, because there are the faculties who are openly supportive about it, but of course there are faculties who are quite against it. So, and I think.
And how do you think that would change now with the verdict?
Again, it's an yes and no kind of answer, because I haven't come across, because these entire proceedings were going on, we were mostly busy with the legal kind of intricacies, but I haven't got a chance to really have an interaction with the administration yet. So after this post-verdict, as soon as we will start a dialogue with the administration, we will see how the administration reacts to it. But for me, I haven't encountered backlash yet from any of the persons from administration.
All right. Well, I'd like to go across to Arundhati Kadzu. She's joining us from her residence there. And Arundhati, well, great to have you on the show with us. So, as we started at the start of this program, we spoke about how this is half the battle. This is a big milestone. Finally, homosexuality decriminalized, but there's a long road ahead. And the government stand in this case. They put a very carefully worded stance of that as long as it pertains only to decriminalization, they were fine with it. But should it go into other spheres, then they would have liked to come in on those issues as well. So it was very clear that they're fine with decriminalization. That's what their worded statement seemed to suggest. But anything more, they won't be fine with.
So Gargi, as far as the government was concerned, they filed an affidavit where they said that they left it to the wisdom of the court. And the judgment has also commented on that. But as far as going ahead with things beyond decriminalization, are concerned, firstly, the judgment itself speaks strongly about equality in all aspects for LGBT people. The other thing which, I'm constantly reminding myself is that there is a long road ahead, but it's also important not to forget how far we've come, and to keep focused on that as well. And this whole journey started in the 1990s with the first case that was filed, and thereafter in 2001 NAS Foundation came to court. In 2013 the Supreme Court dismissed Kaushal, and now finally in 2018 Navtej Singh Johar and others including Devottam have managed to bring about this wonderful change. So I think it's also important for the community to take a breath, to pause and to really celebrate this moment.
Sure, of course, there have been celebrations. I think we've all witnessed those celebrations taking place. But going forward, there are other rights. Already people are speaking about that, about, marriage, of course, is one thing that everybody speaks about. Also, the status of partners, long-term partners who have no legal status, should one of the partners die. So, issues like this, hereditary as well. So, these are various issues that still remain and are something that the community do want these rights. They do want to, live as any other citizen here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not denying that at all, and I think this is the beginning of the second phase of the journey.
But it's going to be more challenging, isn't it? Because that is where you're going to really face
judgment,
these mindsets as well. That's where you're going to. You've already had, the RSS talking about that. Okay, fine, decriminalization is okay, but gay relationships are not okay. They've already made that quite clear in their statement there. We'll see more and more such voices speaking. Should the fight start for civil rights?
See, Gargi, I think even this fight, this was a hard-fought battle, and it wasn't easy to get things to this point. So when we win cases, sometimes there's a sense of inevitability that things had to happen, or that there was never a doubt that they were going to happen. But actually, even getting the case to this point was a long and hard journey. So I think we are now at the end of the first phase of that journey with decriminalization, and without a doubt there's a long journey ahead as well. But there are two things I think to keep in mind. One is that the political class may have its opinions on this, but today the court has said that the Constitution protects LGBT people, that it applies to them in all its aspects, it applies to them fully, and that rights of equality adhere in LGBT people just as they do in any other community in this country. That's one. The second thing that I'm always so happy to see is that young people today are really aspirational. Decriminalization, I have no doubt, is only the first phase, and for young people, they aspire to enjoy all the rights that their constitution gives them, as they very rightly should.
All right, well, I'd like to now go across to Yashwinder Singh, who's also a petitioner with Humsafar Trust. Yashwinder, you just heard what Arundhati had to say, and yes, it is a time to celebrate. It's been a hard-fought battle. This case has seen so many twists and turns, so at one point even refused by the High Court and then brought back thanks to a Supreme Court order, and then of course 2009, 2013, and then today. But so what do you feel now? There is also a battle to change mindsets, and that's something that Justice Nariman spoke about, that he thinks the government should make an effort to disseminate information, do away with prejudices, also sensitize police and government officials.
Yeah, so very true, because as said by everybody, this is the first step and a very landmark step, and from now onwards we have to take it as a movement for reforms, like the way we did earlier in case of Sati Pratha, widow remarriage. Similar way we need to give this time now. We need to accept that there is a reality. LGBT community is very much part of India, the ancient India. Now let us restore all these value system back in our country. Now first step is to throw this law, which is draconian one brought by Britishers, and in fact I was having discussion with my father, who is actually watching this show right now. So he told me, but okay, this is the law which is brought by Britishers. I said yes, So he said, okay, now we are back to that India where, you know, community is being respected, perhaps. So, you know, if that is the mindset, you know, that whole thing we need to build into the mind of our people. So, as I said, it's a reform movement. So, for that definitely we need to work on three things. We need to go to our law enforcement agencies. We need to see that judgment is there, but how strictly it's been kind of, you know, implemented in place. Because I just want to remind all of you, NALSA judgment by Honorable Supreme Court has come in 2014. But how many transgender today we see who are working in government department, who are working in private jobs, or working anywhere?
Absolutely.
Nowhere. How many transgenders are there who are living in a posh areas, maybe GK and other places? Nowhere. So, okay, judgment is there, it's in our favor. But from now onwards, we actually have to work towards it. And as I said, reform movement, because we live in a society and we cannot bring a change, you know, we have to take the whole society with us. So, this is the high time that our society should recognize the rights of LGBT people, should respect the Supreme Court and the judgment, and should start working on implementation of it. Only then I see that a change will come.
All right, I'd also like to go across now to Dipti Tadanki, filmmaker who joins us from Goa. And Dipti, you made a film on something called corrective rape. I hadn't even heard of this. But if you could tell our viewers and our audiences what is corrective rape and what you discovered in the course of making this film.
Yeah, corrective rape is something where people rape homosexuals to turn them straight. So they think that they have never been with the opposite sex, so they want to rape them so that they get a hint of how being with the opposite sex and they might turn straight. So that is what they do.
And this is the families who are doing it. The families are doing it.
Yes, it happens worldwide. It's not only families, it can be families, friends, the whole society can plot against them. Like, you know, sometimes it's a community thing that happens, and sometimes it's about own parents, brothers, sisters, and like, you know, whoever they don't like it, like, you know. So I think that is what the corrective rape is. And sad as because it's not legal. When somebody gets raped, they can't even go to get a legal protection, like, you know, because the moment you go to somebody and tell that this is what happened, you are the one who's going to get arrested first. Like, you know, the kind of hatredness that they have in the community, people do not have that love and acceptance. And the sad part is when your own family is a part of it, it's a shame that, you know, already you're not being accepted in the society, and then you're going towards your family, and then your own family is rejecting, and something heinous is happening to you, and you have nowhere to go. So because of that, not even a single case have been registered in India.
So we don't even know how
rape.
Often this takes place. We have no statistics.
Yes,
and what sort of cases, like uncles and who do the families get involved? Because it all just sounds so shameful and heinous.
Yeah. It's like fathers, mothers, cousins, brothers, sisters, everybody, like, you know, people get involved into this. And the sad part is, as I said, there are no statistics. Like when I was trying to make the film, I went around all the organizations and communities and tried to get the statistics, but nobody is ready to, you know, come forward and talk about it, and there are no statistics. And the only statistics when I found is, like, I think in 2014 or 2014, Satyameva Jayate show happened in where there was from Surat, Gujarat, there is this organization where they have some statistics. I tried to reach them, but, you know, I couldn't get any. And there's not even one person who has come forward to, you know, take it up. And that's how my film was also, I was not able to bring forward, because when I went to people and told them, they were like, is this true? Does this really happen? Are there any statistics? Is anybody ready to come and talk about this? Like, you know, but yeah, I know people through friends, I met them personally, but, you know, nobody is okay to come forward and talk about it.
Sounds absolutely shocking. And Arundhati, I'd like to come back to you about this. I mean, you know, practices like this, can we now hope that with this judgment, people would be, you know, come out and actually make complaints regarding something as horrific as this?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, a strong signal has been sent out to the community that they should not hesitate to approach law enforcement whenever they face an issue.
All right, Grace, I'd like to come to you, Grace Banu, a transgender activist and the first to go to engineering college as well in Tamil Nadu. Tell us about your journey and what we're talking about, the importance of changing mindsets. The law has changed, but we still need to change society. We still need a lot of support and to do away with discrimination.
Yes, first of all, I welcome this judgment. As a trans, we know what is discrimination. Compared with other people, we are facing a lot of discrimination each and every day and every moment. So this judgment changes some point of our life, that's it. But it doesn't change. Every day we are facing the discrimination in the road, in my family, all the things. So it doesn't change.
And how was it for you in engineering college? I mean, it's such a tough environment as it is, and then to be somebody different in that environment.
See, after that Supreme Court judgment, that 2014 also judgment came, I got the engineering seat from Tamil Nadu Anna University, and they did not allow me first. They denied my application. After that, they gave admission. I fought a lot of things against that thing.
Yes. Get the admission. Yes.
So in my college, my friends they are all good. They have lot of awareness. So now all the youngsters have a lot of awareness about the trans people. But the older generation, they have some that structure, society structure. They follow that structure. So they have transphobia. But within the youngsters and my...
you feel it's changing, it's already
it's changing.
The society, next generation is more accepting.
The society is changing. But the rights-based, see, first of all, government should recognize us. After that, the society, they are accept.
And are you disappointed we haven't heard anything from the government so far?
Yeah. So still now we can't go to the schools and the colleges. We don't have the rights. So after that Supreme Court judgment came also, but how many states are implement that judgment? It doesn't happen. So it's still now we are ready to live in a dignified life, but this society and the government doesn't give the opportunities to us.
All right, and then that's something that of course we all want to see changing and changing sooner than later. And I'd like to come to Robin next. Robin, aka Ravina Tampon, and you're one of India's first drag queens. You perform as well, but you're also someone who's been through various corporate jobs. And tell us about that. How has corporate India been so far? And we really want to see change coming. We need more sensitization in corporate India, especially after the judgment that we've seen this last week.
Yeah, so I kind of started working at a really early age. I started working at the age of 18 because I thought that it was important for me to work and be financially independent because I was different. And I was scared that my parents might just, throw me out of the house and I would not even have a roof over my head then. So I always wanted to be financially independent so that I can sustain myself at least. So yes, I got a job at IBM. I started as a telecaller. And yeah, I worked with them for good 2.5 years. But again, the challenge was people. So one thing that I tell everybody is that I'm comfortable as I am. It's just that I'm at the wrong place, and among the wrong people. So there was this one day when I was leaving from work along with a friend, and one of my managers just said, he actually commented, "Ab dono behne ghar jao." And that time I did not even know that I was gay. I was too young to know myself. I did not introspect myself then. It was later that the society told me, that the people around me told me that I was different, and yes, there has to be something else for you, and not you don't belong here.
All right, and so tell us about corporate India. Like, we are saying that we need to see more changes, and HR needs to be more sensitive, to the LGBTQ community as well. And what has your experience been, given that you've changed several jobs?
Yeah. So I kind of changed 4 jobs in the span of 6 years, I think, and which is terrible, of course. But yeah, I think it wasn't my fault. It was the fault of the people around me.
And what was HR like? Did you ever encounter any issue that you wanted to take to
yes.
HR?
Once with IBM, I went to the HR reporting that my manager said this to me, and what are you going to do about this? The only thing that they could do then was, please sign a warning letter, and yes, this won't happen ever again. But I would take it as verbal assault to me, because this was alien for me. I was not expecting something like this to come from my manager, somebody who's called a people manager. I worked with good Fortune 500 best companies in the world to work with. I worked with IBM, American Express India Private Limited, and Siemens India Private Limited. And I don't know why all these international companies with international labels comes to India and become Indian. I have no clue about it. Yeah. Yeah.
The Indian mindset and the prejudices.
Correct. So that's the kind of experience that I've had with the corporate world. But I don't think that scrapping of Section 377 matters for them. They have this inclusion and diversity policy, which I still don't know what is that. There's no hiring and firing policy. I don't know when will they introduce gender neutral washrooms. I don't know what's happening. I mean, yeah, there is inclusion and diversity policy, but yeah, I don't know what's in it.
All right, well, Rishi, I'd like to come to you next, and you're a celebrity stylist, and tell us about your journey. And as Ravina was talking about the prejudices, discrimination. We are a society that discriminates a lot, be it on caste, be it on gender, and of course the community, the LGBTQ community, does face the brunt of it, a lot of discrimination so far, and it's going to be a long journey for mindsets to change.
That is true. It is going to be a long journey, but like Ms. Kadzu just said, that we have come a long way, and therefore we know there's a long way to go ahead further as well. But we have to take that time and keep on working on it. You know what the law does is, I think it allows a lot of power and confidence to the individual to be able to kind of stand up to proactive, aggressive homophobes. So when people are jumping onto you, now you have the power to turn around and at least know that the law supports you, which wasn't really there till now. So as somebody who grew up a gay child, things were very different for me. It was very easy for me to come out to my family because I had a very supportive, very accepting atmosphere around me. I come from a small town, Allahabad, and my dad and my mom, they're small town people, and their acceptance and the relatives and the family and college and work, everywhere, the acceptance made me realize that, it's not about being English speaking, or it's not about being educated or knowing all the laws and stuff. It actually is about being aware and being thoughtful. And I think those are the things that we need to focus on. Those are the kind of awareness and desensitization that we really need to get into. And that can only come with a lot of talking and a lot of sharing and a lot of people getting a peek into the lives of queer people and getting to see how really ordinary this love is at the end of the day. So I think it's about that, and the law, the changing of the law, the scrapping of 377 is at least going to give us that confidence and power. I have been in a live-in relationship with my partner sitting next to you for the last 7 years, and I may not have fears of being accepted because I work in fashion, it's cool, it's everything is acceptable and it's nice and easy. But do I face fears that if tomorrow I have a fight with a neighbor, he wouldn't call up the cops and say, you know what, these two guys are homosexuals and that's against the law. So those fears were always there. Knowing that, a lot of people, for a lot of people, we are just friends. They still can't address us as boyfriends, as partners. Those kind of social awkwardness, that social discomfort somewhere seeps into you. And it's not great for your personality. It's not great for you when you're...
So I'd like to ask Vijay here about that. Rishi's talking about his journey and how it seems wonderful. Like, I mean, you're coming out.
I've been very lucky.
Your family and friends, so supportive and all. If you could share with us about your journey.
I think it's quite different from his. It's been a struggle. I finally came out only at 30, and I think even though my parents accepted, it socially, I think it is a very different construct for them to accept it. I talk to them, we still have a relationship, but I don't know where there is this openness to this side of my life. You know, it is always about leaving or not being gay. You know,
Okay.
they don't say don't be gay, but then they don't want to talk about it. So
What was their reaction to the judgment?
I
Did they
frankly
speak
haven't
to you
had a
about it?
chance to talk to them about it.
I see.
But I think that's where I think it has been difficult in terms of acceptance. I think one of the panelists also talk about corporate India. I also worked 10 years in corporate sector. I think a lot of companies like MNCs coming in, the legality is going to bring about a certain openness, and maybe openness in terms of speaking to employees from the LGBT community.
Sensitizing other
Sensitizing
employees.
others also, because I think the legality was one of the biggest things, you know, that was stopping them from opening it up.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very optimistic.
I
So you feel now that we'll see a change in corporate India? We have seen the Tatas have come out in support. They tweeted about
I
supporting
absolutely
the
think
We've seen
so.
a lot of
Godrej apparently
we've
has
seen a
a
lot of
great
multinationals and
yeah.
domestic brands put out their
Yeah.
rainbow graffiti and their hashtags. We've
And we
seen
hope
that
they walk
also.
the talk now.
They
I
need to
think
walk
they
the
will,
talk,
because I
definitely.
think there is a huge pool of talented people from the community, and it is awkward for them to land up at work which is hostile. So now once they can, you know,
And is that why you left the corporate world?
in a small measure, but you know what, that was not the main thing, but then, you know, I could see it, you know, whenever you are with friends, it was always all about them talking about what is happening, whereas I could not talk about it. I could not talk about it in any way. Like, I don't think so it was acceptable. I don't think so it was acceptable in the hierarchy. I don't
All
think
right.
so.
Okay, well, I'd like to now go across to Dr. Karsi Chavra. He's the chairperson of the IPS Task Force on LGBTQ issues. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Chavra. And, you know, a lot of the stories we hear about people coming out and how their families react and how they feel it's something they can change, perhaps. You know, we heard that terrible story about this thing that I didn't even know about, corrective rape, and it's terrible. And also, of course, it doesn't help that some of our politicians make statements. You have Baba Ramdev claiming that he can, you know, change you back, and, you know, this whole treatment of homosexuality as something abnormal, something that can be changed, something that can be done away with. You know, so tell us about you know, the psychiatrists have all come out very strongly against this, and I've said it again and again. I think it needs to be said as many times as it needs to be, and to, you know, really drive home that point in society.
Well, I'd be very happy to do so. I think what we have to realize is, since a very long time, psychiatrists have been saying that this is not a mental disorder. Now, the Indian Psychiatry Society has set up a whole bunch of task forces. So there's a task force which deals with, say, child psychiatry. There's something that deals with biological. There's something that deals with geriatric. And about 2 years ago, they set up a task force basically to deal with the emotional issues relating to the LGBTQ community. This year, I happen to be the chairperson of this task force. And we are thrilled to bits that the position statement that the IPS has given, which is on our webpage and things like that, very specifically talks about the fact that we do not believe it to be a mental disorder, and we do not believe that it should be a criminal thing. I'm also extremely happy to note that 2 of the 5 judges apparently have quoted our position statement.
Yes.
And I'm glad that it seems to have helped in the cause of the repealing of this section. If you're looking at the future, there's a lot to be done. Just like they were all saying, it's not that now everybody is going to start you know, blowing kisses at each other and saying, oh, we love you, we love you. That's not going to happen. There is an inherent homophobia. I think we all grew up in families where, even though we talked about a lot of things, I don't think at the dining table we spoke about being gay or being lesbian. There's a lot of internalized homophobia. A lot of people grow up thinking that there's something wrong with it. And for people then to start questioning their own sexuality, it kind of adds to the problem associated with facing up to the fact that they might be different. There's also this whole thing of, could it be a lifestyle thing? No, it's not a lifestyle thing. By and large, the recent research points towards the fact that there are genetic things, there are hormonal issues, there are connectivity issues within the brain, there are actually differences in cerebral thickness related to the male and to the homosexual and the so-called normative heterosexual thing. So it's not that I can get up and say, okay, today I want to be gay. It's not going to happen.
Right. And do you feel it would
by
help
and large born
in
with it.
schools to talk more about this? Do you think that's something we can actually see happening? Because we don't even have a sex education, but
Well, I'm
clearly
very
children
pleased.
must be spoken to about
I'm
this.
very pleased.
Yes.
I'm very pleased to state that at least in Bombay, we've already started talking to schools and principals. We've had about 3 or 4 huge seminar workshops kind of things. One with about 600 teachers and principals, another with about 350. Recently, I was invited to an international school where for the first time, they actually asked me to speak on issues related to this. And it was wonderful. I mean, the person who was the MC, she came in and she introduced everybody, and before she could start, she actually said, "Hey guys, yesterday we've just repealed the 377, isn't that great?" And the whole hall burst into applause and catcalls and yay, we love India kind of thing. I think our new generation, our young generation
That's
is
wonderful to hear. Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
All
it
right,
was an eye-opener even for me, and I'm generally very optimistic, but I was thrilled.
All right, that's wonderful, and a note of optimism there, and of course the next generation. And I'd like to come to you, Anvesh Sahu, Mr. Gay World India 2016, and also a TEDx speaker. Yes. Well, you've been hearing all the panelists talk about their challenges and what they'd like to see change sooner than later. Tell us about yourself.
So first off, I would like to thank all those people who've led us to this, the likes of Ashok Rao Kavi, Nishit Saran, Harish Iyer, Parmesh Shahani, who I also had the opportunity of working under. These are the people who I came across when I was 16. I came out like 6 years ago, around the time I was 16, to my sister, and I remember crying to her that entire night that I don't want to be gay, but I think I am. And this entire journey of me being bullied at school, it really crushes you, it breaks you down completely. And like he said, we need to talk about gender and sexuality in school, which is something that I've been very vocal about. I remember when I went up to my teacher for my school magazine, I wanted to talk about my coming out experience with her. And she said, "Anvesh, maybe this is a little sensitive topic for school." And I was like, "Ma'am, I'm a 17-year-old kid and I know what we 17-year-olds need, but you don't accept the fact that we need to talk about sexuality and gender with you all. How do you expect us to live better lives?" I mean, I was completely suicidal when I had come out to my sister, and I didn't want to be gay. I didn't want to be associated to this community because of the way we've also been looking at it. And we all grew up in a very heteronormative world. So this very concept of normalcy, I still don't see that, honestly, because I have lived in an engineering college. I've shared my personal space with guys. I was very happy, however, with the fact that all of these boys were accepting. They wanted to know more about the community. And if you sit down with them and you would talk to them, that is the only way you can really bring out the change from the very grassroots level.
So this is when you were at engineering college,
yes.
You found that your classmates were fairly accepting. And
they were fairly accepting, but you always come across that one guy who's very scared of talking to you.
Do you feel we need to see this more in movies, in TV shows in
Absolutely.
India? We have that in the US, but here somehow it's always a caricature that we see perhaps in reality shows, and perhaps now we need these things, these such characters in shows and shown in a very normal way. It could be your uncle, it could be your aunt.
Yeah. I mean, when I came out, my next door neighbors found it absolutely normal. And when your next door neighbor happens to be gay, that is how things are going to change. That sense of normalcy is going to come into the picture. I remember the first day of college, I asked someone else's contact for his notes, and he said, "I'm not really sure if I can give it out to you," because he had that feeling that I am gay. He just had that feeling. He didn't even know. I mean, that really, I mean, the very first day of my college, and I come across a friend who's not even willing to share his notes with me just because
Well,
I'm gay.
hopefully this is what we'll now see changes, and we need to talk more about these issues. We need people to hear more about it. Arundhati, I'd like to come back to you about the issue of corporate India. You know, everybody's been speaking about how corporate India has so far not been so sensitized, but of course till now it was homosexuality was illegal. But now do you see things will change maybe, and we'll see HR becoming more sensitive to people's issues and rights?
Yeah, absolutely, Gargi. You know, I think I'm going to sound a note of optimism here, as I usually like to do. I think the thing is, judgments in the courts do not necessarily change society as a whole or all kinds of opinions, but this judgment definitely gives a strong indication to LGBT people that the court has said that constitutional morality is in support of them, is in their support. And so what that means is you now have a tool. You have the court and your constitution behind you to go out into the world and claim all your rights. So while in the past homosexuality itself was thought to be illegal. I mean, it's interesting that everyone says, the Supreme Court has said that homosexuality is not illegal anymore. Actually, it was certain sexual acts which were illegal.
Right.
But it gives you a lot of confidence to be able to take this judgment and go out in the world for all your interactions, whether it's, you know, in the workplace, whether it's with your family, with your friends, and to know that today the Constitution stands in your support.
All right. Thank you so much, Arundhati, for joining us. I know you have a busy day ahead for you this evening as well. And well, thank you so much for taking that time out. Well, I'd like to go across to Manoj now. And Manoj, you're somebody who's had a terrible experience. And when you talk about till now how it's been for the community, that you couldn't fight for your rights, this was always something hanging over your head, that, you know, you could be thrown into jail, you could be victimized over this. Tell us about your experience.
Yeah, actually, it's almost about in 2003 and 4 when I came first time in Delhi. And that time, like in the midnight, I'm coming back from marriage, and like if the people know about in Delhi, like that time it's a metro construction was going on, and it's like one of my relative, they dropped me near to ISBT, and they just book an auto to go to my place where I'm living. And the auto guy, he just like drove like in a dark area. Suddenly a police came over there, and they were saying like, what are you doing over here? So I said, I thought maybe the police guy can help me. But the police guy and the auto, they both are together. They are just gang or whatever you can say. And like he just caught me over there. He was saying like, okay, well, it's a wireless, and you're doing something wrong, so you need to go to police thana or something. So I said, okay, I can be with you, but tell me what is the reason. So he was saying like, oh, you're doing something wrong with the auto guy. So I said, okay, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Okay, auto guy can come with us, then you can rectify what I'm doing. So they were saying, no, he can go. And he was saying, yeah, okay, he'll be coming, you just sit with me. So I thought, okay, the police guy, maybe we are going to police station, but suddenly he just turned, and there's the construction site over there. There are two more police guy, and they just like hold my hand, and the police guy which was like came with me bike, and he just like pant down my, and he is starting penetrating me over there.
Right.
It's like the three, they are like forcefully,
and they could
it's
just
a
gang up
completely.
on you, and you had
Yeah.
no recourse after that. There was no one
Yeah.
to complain to. There's
No
nothing
one,
you
because
could
see,
say.
that time I even don't know about where I should go and what I
And these
have
are
to do.
policemen after all. I mean, they're the
Yeah,
ones who need
and
to protect
even
you.
and the worst part is over there, like there are like a number of auto guy over there, like number of rickshaw puller over there. They are just laughing. They even are crying. I was like okay, anybody can come to help me, but nobody can come and they help me. And that was like it's like almost they did like that time they take my number and even they just tell me like if you go somewhere, you complain someone, so like I have
they
your
would
mother
harass
number,
you
your
further.
father number, your son, and otherwise
And
you know
actually
that, yeah.
fearful for your life, for your family.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that is okay. That is one part, and other thing is like that they just because till that time I don't know what is the 377. They were saying, yeah, you know, it's a 377, and we pull you
all
inside.
right. So
like this
Yashvinder,
thing.
I mean, there's so many of these stories we keep hearing about, and hopefully now, and imagine policemen taking advantage, and there was always this fear over you, and you had no recourse to any sort of justice, and that's something that we now want to see changed with this judgment.
Yeah, first of all, I would actually like to salute Manoj, because I am his friend as well, and I know the ordeal which he went through, and salute the way, I mean, people are coming up and sharing. And it's not only one Manoj, there are millions of Manoj, who have actually undergone such kind of treatment through police, law enforcement agencies, through goons. And in Humsafar we have a crisis unit. Every day there are 2 or 3 calls on our unit which talks about how people are honey trapped on Facebook, how they are threatened to use 377, and how blackmailing is happening, a lot of violence is happening. And the sad part is that because laws were there earlier, people were unable to even come out and talk to anybody. Now there are 2 things. Now only law has gone, but still a bigger battle is society, because you can't go and tell it to your parents, you can't go and tell it to other people, but there is only one support now. At least you can go and report to the police.
Right.
That is the major change
Finally.
which has happened finally. Otherwise there were, I mean, absolutely there were no rights with us, if we talk about prior to this judgment.
All right. Well, I'd like to now go to a happier story. Aditya here with his husband, and tell us about yourselves, and now how do you see things changing after the judgment that's come? You've been living together. You have 6-year-old twins, and that's wonderful. And I believe they're watching at home.
Already here, Mike.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I'd just like to just take a pause. Before I do that, I'd like to just say my feelings about what everyone's saying here about 377. That the thing is really going to help us is it's going to give us self-confidence. That one of the things that the world doesn't realize is that every gay person has had to live a terrible story of loneliness and suppression of their soul. Their soul is quelled. And something that I loved reading in the judgment was when Justice Deepak Mishra says that a life without dignity is like a sound that is not heard. And so that's our lives till we have the courage to come out. That is why it's so important to come out. And actually, all gay people, I've had a fairly easy process of coming out once I came out to my parents, but for 25 years I lived a terribly lonely life by myself without telling anyone who I was. It totally, and we all did, all the gay people, and there's a damage to your psyche at that moment. And so this will give us confidence that we are okay and that we're not criminals, and this is a very deep wound to our soul that happens by society, by your friends, by your family. So one of the things that's really important is Indian family doesn't talk about gay. They don't bring up the subject, even if they accept you. It's a subject that they don't really like to discuss amongst. It's okay, let's not talk about it. They're always like, this is something we don't need to talk about. Everyone's here, the HR guy is saying, so-and-so is saying, let's not talk about it. And so I'm hoping we will now begin to discuss. We are as normal as everyone else, and even in my family it was important to discuss it. So what I'm trying to say is that it's really important for the gay person to have confidence so they can tell the world that they're gay. So other people know that they're gay.
And you feel now this,
and the other people know, and then you can talk about the subject. And so then once you start talking about the subject, you sensitize the world, and you must. It is the role of the gay person to come out and lead by telling the world. They say silence equal death. When AIDS came out, ACT UP came in New York. They had this slogan, silence equal death, which is so true about us. And the sound that is not heard. I love the way he placed it, because our lives, our souls are like that. And so it's really important to come out. And Michael and I, we met many years ago when I lived in California. We both lived there in a wonderful town called Berkeley, which sort of leads the way of the world in a way. And we met there at the White Horse, which is a lovely bar. We had gone there to dance. And we met, and we've been together since that night. And so it's very important to tell the world, live openly. And for that reason, once we decided to have children, which was about, we really wanted children, and it's very important to have children, I believe, for gay people also, and gay people will have children. It is our right to have our families, and we will have our families. We won't be denied surrogacy rights, adoption rights, and so we need to have families, and we need to live with them openly so the rest of society can see that we're just like them.
All right, well, it's time for us to slip into a short break, but as Justice Indu Malhotra said, that history owes an apology to the LGBTQ community, and I think that's absolutely...
Mr. Modi is the leader of this country.
All
I encourage him
and
to
Michael, anything that you would like to add? No. Well, we'll slip into a short break. We'll be back with the final statements from all our panelists. Welcome back to We the People, and we're talking about the judgment that came this last week where Section 377 was done away with and homosexuality is no longer criminalized in this country. And I want to get quick comments from our audience members here. Yes, go ahead.
One of the panelists mentioned about corporate India and how C377 is not really, shaking them from within. I would like to bring about a point that a lot of corporate India Inc., a lot of global MNCs within India have actually led the mantle even before 377 was legalized, was rather read down, and they're doing continuous effort to engage with the community on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure this judgment is going to open a lot of more doors. Yes. So just one quick point I would like to add here is that, the policy itself is not sufficient. The law itself is not sufficient. It needs to translate into action and affirmative action. And for that, engagement with the community is really important.
All right. Well, good to know that you feel so strongly and you feel corporate India has been doing a lot. Yes, sir.
This is high time the government gives a reservation for all the LGBT community so that they shall be economically uplifted. Because now, due to this prejudice, they were not being given an opportunity. It's high time there's a reservation and there's an opportunity in every scope of life.
All right, well, so far we haven't even heard from the government, so I think that's going to be a stretch. Yes.
Like, I'm in my college, I see a lot of gay people, lesbian, and I do not know about them. They don't talk to me about themselves. I mean, it's just not normal to them. How do I become friends with them? I'd like to ask you, please.
How would you become friends with them?
Yes.
Go and say hi.
Yeah,
just go and say hi. It's as simple as that. I would like to say something here. A lot of times straight people come up and say, oh, why do you need a queer pride march? Why do you need to go out and tell people and come out and all of that? That's because we haven't had those rights that those heteronormative, heterosexual people have had.
Well, we
so
do have a straight pride parade actually. We do have the Bharati, they're all straight pride parade.
That's true. You're celebrating sexuality.
One of the panelists mentioned that the LGBT community is different. So the question we need to address is not that why you are different, but who made straight the norm. It's not the norm.
Absolutely.
Everybody is different in their own way.
The first thing that the society did was to segregate women from the society.
Yes.
Women are also minorities, and women are also not the part of patriarchy. Women are the first set of communities, which was segregated, and then comes we.
Yeah. I mean, effeminacy is still a euphemism for indignity, which needs to change. We still look down. I can't wear my heels down in my college, sometimes outside my college, because I'm scared that people are going to judge me. And sometimes it does happen. I have been followed and groped just because I happen to be wearing heels.
Okay.
Myself, Mithun Chatterjee. We are a collective of 3 to 4 people. We are having a gay travel agency by the name of eTravels. What I wanted to emphasize on this judgment is there is a big impact on this on the GDP as well. If you see at the figures, 18% of the global LGBT population lives in India. Now, if you correlate that 18% population into numbers, and those numbers by their purchasing power parity into the GDP, that's a lot of, 1% of GDP. It can make sense. It can create an impact of 1%.
Which obviously the brands have seen. That's where they're trying to get involved with the thing. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So I would like to add 2 points. As the Supreme Court has read it down, Section 377, it's not only the benefit, it's not only LGBT community that will be getting benefit out of it. It's also beneficial for heterosexual people, because there were so many cases where wives are harassing or rather than blackmailing their husband under Article 377, Section 377, like they are forcing us for unnatural sex, oral sex. Second, like there's a very common term which there was a time when everyone's talking about it, was brain drain. There were so many people, since it was not legalized in India, people have to force to leave country and go to some other country where it's legalized.
So you're absolutely right. Even I know somebody who actually left the country, went to Canada because of Section 377. Final word, yes.
I like to add a comment which you just said. You said when you were 16, you just cried because you don't want to don't want to be a gay. And you just said one thing more, that you don't wear heels because you are scared what people will say. How can you accept that society will accept you when you are not ready to accept yourself first?
Which is why I'm accepting myself and wearing my heels today.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, everybody, for being here and asking all your questions and opinions. Thank you to our viewers for watching this show, and I hope it's given you something to think about. It's been an incredible last week and a great day for human rights in the country. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.